foyer de Dieu qu'on appelle Shiloh, la merveille que nous adorons. Shiloh le Messie, celui qui devait venir et qui vint.
Welcome to Leadership, Basic Leadership Part 1. We will be dealing with the basic of leadership, the foundation of leadership. In this series, God calls every Christian to leadership. I want to let you know that God calls you. The day you were born again, God was calling you to leadership. He describes who you are according to 1 Peter chapter 2 verse 9. But you are a chosen people. In the King James Bible, it says, but you are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a peculiar people, that you should show forth the praise of him who had called you out of darkness into his marvelous light. It begins by saying you're a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, that is a kingly priesthood. The word royal means from the palace, from the kingship, from a kingly lineage, a peculiar people. Now let's anchor on that word, royal priesthood. A leader is a king, and if God addresses you, a child of God, as a king, it shows you are a potential leader. He called you to lead. As I keep defining leadership, leadership is our influence capacity. If you could influence somebody, you are a leader. If you could influence yourself, you are a leader to yourself. If you could influence your family, you are a leader to your family. Everybody, directly or indirectly, leads. But having the leadership mindset is what I want to plant within us. I hear people say sometimes in church or in other settings, I'm just a floor member in an organization. It's nothing like a floor member. It's just because we've been brought up to think that leadership is when you are at the top and you are passing every command and auditing everybody and everybody is accountable to you. No, that's the wrong concept of leadership. Everybody born again is a Christian leader, a potential Christian leader. The Bible still calls you in 2 Corinthians chapter 5 verse 20, it calls you an ambassador. An ambassador is a leader. Let's go back to the Old Testament in Jeremiah chapter 1 verse 5. Jeremiah chapter 1 verse 5. In Jeremiah chapter 1 verse 5, the Bible says, before I formed thee in the belly, I knew thee. And before thou camest forth out of the womb, I sanctified thee, and I ordained thee unto the nations, a prophet. Before you came out of the womb, God has ordained that you are a leader. Your leadership was before you were even born again. If you go further, Jeremiah says, Lord, I am but a child. And the Lord said, no, don't call yourself a child, because I have called thee to pull down nations, to rebuild nations, and for greater assignments. In the book of Samuel, 1 Samuel chapter 3, if we have to take it all the way from verse 1 down to verse 11, the Bible says, and the child Samuel ministered unto the Lord before Eli, And the word of the Lord was precious in those days. There was no open vision. And it came to pass at the time when Eli was laid down in his place, and his eyes began to wax dim, that he could not see. And ere the lamp of God went out in the temple of the Lord, when the ark of God was, and Samuel was laid down to sleep, that the Lord called Samuel, and he answered, Here am I. Let's stop there. And if we look at this passage, this is God calling boy Samuel into leadership, preparing him into leadership. The day you got born again, you were prepared into leadership. There are areas of your leadership calling. The area of your leadership calling is tantamount to the area of passion that is in you. Not all of us are called to lead in the same direction. Not all are called to lead in the same direction. The area of your passion is the area that you are called to influence. Let me keep using the word influence, because when we keep using the word lead, it's like just passing command. No. Okay. If you have a passion for music, to bring transformation in the hearts of people through music, that is the area of your calling. That is the area of your leadership. If you have a passion to pray and intercede for people, that is the area of your leadership influence. If you have a passion for a skill to set up things and organize people, that is the area of your leadership. You may be that calm person who don't like two people to always quarrel, to always be in strife. You are a conflict resolver. Every potential God gives in you and puts in you is a tool of your leadership. Even just the natural skills that you have are all tools for leadership. Do you know that if you're a business person, sharp in business, who could make money, God gave you that tool to make money so that you can influence people even with your financial resources positively. We are talking about positive influence here, not negative influence. So it should dawn on you, precisely, if you're a Graphemite here listening to me, it should dawn on you that you are a leader. The day you were born again, you were born into leadership. The day you were born again, you were born into leadership in this great structure. Great gift and leadership skills are all developed in small groups. That's another thing you must understand in this basic leadership development. Great gifts and leadership skills are developed in small groups under conducive mentorship. Oftentimes the reason why people get little small groups, join departments in church, go to prayer cells or house cells, is that they can develop the area of giftings, the area of their calling. Some are singers, some are technicians, some are preachers, some are intercessor leaders, some are counselors, some have pastoral gifting, some have evangelistic gifting. In that small forum is where God has assigned that you develop your gifting and your grace for leadership. And if you despise that beginning, you will not be able to stand in a bigger platform to display your leadership potential. A growing leadership breeds a growing followership. You cannot grow as a leader without growing a followership. We understand that a leader is growing by the amount of followers that are growing with him. So, as a leader, I want to first beg you to accept within your spirit that you are called for leadership. Whether positional leadership, from the day you begin to accept leadership responsibility, from the day you begin to look at yourself as a leader is a role model. A leader is looked upon as an example. A leader is looked upon as a way maker, a pathfinder, a blueprint marker. From the day you begin to look at yourself as a leader, it will affect your character, affect the way you talk, it will affect the way you behave. So we drive home the point that you are a leader. Why leadership? God created man for leadership. In the book of Genesis, chapter 1, verse 26, God said, "And let us make man in our own image and our likeness, and let them have dominion over the earth, the birds of the sky, the fishes in the sea, and over the animals and all creature." So man was created for leadership. You have to lead the lions, lead everything, put everything in order. When you are walking and setting things in order, is a sign of your leadership capacity. Leadership is not a chair where somebody sits, shakes his leg and pass command. When you are walking to arrange a thing, is a mark of leadership, because that is what Adam was given. A garden was created and given for Adam to dress the garden. That was leadership given to Adam. A woman was created. Adam was to walk with this woman. That was leadership. Let me come back to say point number 2. Why leadership? Leadership formation is the highest and swiftest form of growth. Any organization, any company that will grow, any church that will grow, is when the leader raise leaders out of people, and when the followers accept leadership responsibility. When followers end up always listening, taking orders and doing, and coming back, listen, take orders, do, or just come, listen and go, come, listen and go, they remain followers and not leaders. But when a leader begins to develop in the followers leadership potentials and give them assignments, he is developing leaders, and that's the swiftest form of growth. Unfortunately, we are bereft with a society where a lot of people shun from responsibility. Leadership and responsibility is inseparable. Amen. If we will grow as a mission, if we will grow as the body of Christ, if we will grow as a people, you must begin to see yourself as a leader. A leader looks at a situation, envisions what to do, seeks for permission if necessary, and embark on it. Any leader who always waits to be told what to do, any leader whose 90% of what he does is what he is asked to do, is not a leader, or is a poor one. Whether you're a member in the choir and you just came in new into the choir, when you come and the seats are not arranged, when you begin to arrange the seat, is a sign that you're a potential leader. If nobody tells you come earlier and you came earlier, it's a sign that you're a potential leader. When you come and you begin to work on songs, or you begin to develop yourself and you work on a song to teach others, it's a sign that you're a potential leader. If you look at what is good for the choir, one sister does not have this and you assist that person, it's a sign that you're a leader. A leader always operates by example. I still repeat, And so responsibility and leadership is inseparable. Why leadership? Point number 3, leadership is accountability. I don't care when you repented, you are a leader, and leadership is accountability, and accountability is maturity. A leader is accountable. Oh yeah, unfortunately we're living in a world where it is believed that leadership is being accountable to. Oh, unfortunately, no. Leadership is the capacity to be accountable to another. It's true we live in a world where a leader sits and everybody brings the account to him and he checks everybody and he goes unchecked. No, true leadership, whether you are at the top or you are at the bottom, is the capacity to do a thing and let another person cross-check whether what you did was right. A lot of people walk up their emotions and get offended because they were asked to be accountable for what they did. They were criticized constructively or corrected over something. But and they get offended. But that is leadership. If you're going to be a great leader, you must be ready to be accountable. You must be ready to be questioned for your actions. You must be ready to not even be in question, to come to somebody and say, this is how I did it. Did I do it right? What should I do next? That person may be your colleague, maybe your equal, but sometimes as a great leader, whatever you do, you seek for confirmation. You share your ideas for confirmation. That is accountability, and accountability is maturity. Never be that kind of a leader which time your subordinates ask you, how did this go? How did this go? You flare up. So why are you asking me? You are asking me as who? It's not your position to. There are people who have asked me questions that was not their position to ask me the questions, but because I was teaching something by my lifestyle, I answered them, gave them the right answer. I was accountable to them, and then at the end I told them, but you know, it's not your place to know, but I just had to let you know. The sign of maturity is a capacity to be accountable. Amen. You can never say you are a great leader when you are not accountable. So the ABC of leadership is you are called to be a leader. The day you begin to convince yourself that you are a leader, you are called to lead people, you are called to lead people, then rise up and take action. When you shall appear before God, you shall be accountable to God. You shall give an account for having abandoned your leadership role. I still go back to the word leadership is influence. You can influence somebody by evangelism. You can influence a young convert in church by making friendship with that young convert. You can influence your people, even your leaders, by being nice to them. Okay, I was talking from the former series that how do you influence from below? How do you lead from below? We said you lead by obedience. Each time you obey somebody, even somebody below you or somebody above you, you win the favor of that person. You can never correct somebody whom you hardly obey. No doubt some junior staff have gone to managers and to bosses and corrected them, and the boss was not angry because this person has been very obedient and has built a good, healthy relationship by virtue of obedience. And they look at that boss to be somebody who doesn't listen to advice, hears nobody, he's very far up there, but this person has the capacity or the audacity to go to this boss and say, boss, this is not going right, this is not going right, and the boss listens. Yes, because he has built healthy relationship. Anybody you help in the time of crisis, you have the capacity to speak in that person's life in the time of joy. So, compliments. When you appreciate and compliment people, you are able to lead them and guide them. You are able to share in your ideas and the take. All those who are self-made people, who always want people to praise them, you can never praise people. You always want them to praise you. You can never talk good of others. If you are that kind of person who always sees fault in people, you can never lead them. Leaders who lead by pressure, lead by command, lead positionally, lead by authority are poor leaders, and with time they will abandon them. But leaders who motivate people, leaders who appreciate people even to flattery and stir up the joy and excitement in people to do a thing and make them see the reason why they ought to do a thing, these are great leaders. And that is what you're called to do. Are you a leader in your home? A father? Each time you pass a command, your children must obey. You don't give a reason why you say what you say, but you just pass a command and your word is law and order. You're a poor leader. You dictate to your wife. She has no reason to ask, why do you take this decision? You're a poor leader. A good leader shares, a good leader excites, a good leader motivates people to do a thing. It is defined as a leadership is the capacity to influence people to do a thing that in their ordinary sense they will not want to do that thing. Another issue that can make you a leader, influence from behind, outside obedience and sacrifice. No, obedience and appreciation is sacrifice. When you sacrifice in a society, you sacrifice in a community, you sacrifice in an organization, as long as you go extra mile to do extra things for that organization, each time you speak, people will listen. You have a following. You have a following. Another way to influence and to lead from behind is to have a listening ear. Only poor leaders want to talk all the time. Only poor leaders want to talk all the time. If you want to lead a people from behind, you are not the boss up there, but you want to influence the boss up there. You want to influence those by your side. Have a listening ear. People will always draw closer to those who listen to them than those who talk to them. And you can never be a good instructor when you are not a good listener. Oh yes, I repeat it again. You can never be a good instructor when you are not a good listener. How do you influence from behind? How do you lead as a follower? In every place where you will not complain that, oh, I'm not at the helm of affairs, that's why my decisions are not considered. How do you lead from behind? Develop yourself. When you develop skills that cannot be gotten by any other person in that organization, in that gathering, in that group, when you develop yourself from the background and you come up with ideas and skills that no man can bring them, no man is unbeatable, you become a leader. Leaders who live on old ideas, people's ideas, never lead the people far. Leaders who are idealists never lead the people. Do you want to be a potential leader? Develop new ideas. Sometimes recline within, go within yourself, study, sometimes think, come with new ideas, pray for new ideas, new visions. A leader and a vision is inseparable. You cannot be a leader in a church, in a gathering, without constantly having new visions and new ideas to improve on your leadership fold. Some people say pastors are bringing them, but they don't accept them. Until you give 100 ideas and all are rejected, don't stop giving an idea. I repeat it again. until you give 100 ideas and it is rejected, or they are all rejected, don't stop giving ideas. I'm a leader. I have people under me. There are times I bring ideas and they reject it, but it doesn't stop me from bringing other new visions. At times I bring a vision and say, no, this vision is very strenuous. It's going to be very strenuous, and I let it low. Sometimes I bleed in my heart why the vision was rejected, but I'm working with people. So it's pride that makes a man, each time he brings a vision, and in that little group, in that little following, somebody said no about it, and he got offended and said, this is the last time I'm bringing any suggestion here. If great leaders can bring suggestions and it's rejected, what more of you? It's an indication that the day you become at the hem of affair, at the top, you will be a dictator. Anybody who gets too offended that he brought an idea, a nice idea, and it was rejected, and he's a follower, is at the bottom or somewhere in the middle, the day he comes to the top, he will become a dictator. Lastly, influencing from behind. How do you become a leader? A leader has a team spirit. If you want to influence from behind, have a team spirit. Don't have it do it all myself. Don't have it take praise all myself. No. Be that kind of a person that you can say, I can do it, but you too can also do it. Let's do it. A leader gives a platform for other people, develops others to come up to limelight. A leader works with a team. A leader brings people as one. He's a people person, not like gathering people to sing his praise. No, he loves to gather people for people to showcase their graces and their talents. Yes, an absolute yes. That is who a leader is. And I know you are a leader. You must have a team spirit. Somebody with a team spirit is somebody who doesn't push himself ahead, but wants to go along with the people. Next, we'll be talking on team spirit. But I want to say, take your leadership responsibility in your environment. Take your leadership responsibility. And lastly, get this: a leader runs for a cause. A leader runs for the cause of the greater leader. Christ is our greater leader. In Grace Faith Mission, I am the leader, the senior pastor. God has given us a cause. If you are a successful leader, you are asking yourself, this cause handed to my Father in the Lord, what is my role in this cause? How can I run with it? In your local assembly, wherever you are a leader. You are a leader. And one thing I hate about some leaders, when I'm talking about some leaders, I'm not talking about officers who sit and take decisions in the church. You are a leader. I don't care how many days you came into the church as a Graphamite. You are a leader. One thing I get so offended with some leaders is this constant issue of backing out because they don't agree with another person. It's a bad syndrome of a leader. A leader does not back out. A leader does not give up. Even when you say it or you wanted it this way and it failed and it was disappointing and it goes to a failure, you can just correct it and you put your hands on deck to see how to rephrase it and make it good. A leader does not sit from afar and watch another leader fails. A leader does not sit from afar and wants to laugh because another person fails. A leader does not leave the group easily because they keep registering failure or this happened. No, a leader perseveres because he wants things to change. Oh yes, and I know, be a good leader. God called you as a leader. A leader looks for an area where he can be of blessing. A leader is sacrificial. God bless you. We'll wait as we enter into series 3.